Hello, the game has started. It's me to go first. I've got the cue. I can play Caddy Cade or Cat. And I'm drawn towards Cat to split up the duplicate tiles. And I think this is a better rack leave than TTY, and a sufficiently better rack leave to compensate for the lower score. Not great. However, I'm glad I retained the vowel, otherwise it could have been worse. Now I have tined on my rack, TYND, which would certainly sort the rack out. I don't think this rack is bad enough to change the Y is a quasi-vowel. So, and also a scoring tile. My eye can go underneath the cue. But I can't see any great play in that spot. It would be nice to split up the duplicate N. So a play like Minty somewhere would be quite nice, and at the moment that does play above the A of Cat. I'm just wondering what my best play underneath the Q is. Possibly Yid. But the rack leave is awful. 4 consonants, no vowels, and duplicate. Okay, my Minty spot has been taken. Piner takes an S in front. But a new Minty spot emerges like a phoenix from the ashes. 39 points. And I think that's likely to be best. That's looking a bit more promising. The A is a good tile to have, and it's certainly nice to have an S. I don't think there's a 7 here. It's possible there's an 8. I don't think Sand Saw is good. Now, given that I've got 2 S's, I can certainly afford to burn one of them fairly cheaply. So if nothing else is available, I have at least got column 10, pluralizing Cat. Now I could also put my S in front of Pina and have a word with SM in it. I think Wasms is good. That would burn both S's. Only 27 points. Now row K is looking quite promising for pluralizing Chin. Well, my opponent's gone there. He's provided a floating O. So I'm just considering whether that gives me a bingo. Can't see one. I do have the down prefix or suffix. That doesn't help. My nice spot, Chin spot, has been taken. However, my opponent has opened up another nice spot in row L, and I am ahead, so I don't have a problem with extending the ladder. My A can go underneath the H. So I could play Wads for 43. Good rack leave. And, well, nothing better. I don't think Lankish is good, although it may be. I don't feel confident enough about it to play it, and I think at the moment it doesn't even play on this board. I've got a 50-point lead. Now in terms of extending the ladder, if my opponent doesn't, L or N can go underneath OW. However, I could also play Hauk in column 3. There's no point in keeping the board super tight. I don't have a sufficiently big lead, and I think it's pretty hard to do that, especially with the column 10 bingo lane being available. So I think I'll just carry on trying to score well and keep a decent rack leave. And certainly Hauck achieves that. Wadds does take an S in front. That's not particularly helpful. And Tay also takes an S in front. Okay, my Hauck spot has been taken, not surprisingly. I'd rather retain my S if I can. So where can my K and H play? That's looking quite a nice play by my opponent. I certainly can play by using my S, but it's very difficult to see plays which don't use it. I'm looking in column 8 to see if I've got anything beginning ant. So an anti-word. Can't see anything. Now I could play anx down here. Let me see what that scores. 35 points, which is a pretty decent score. Rack leaves fairly ropey, but not a disaster. I can't see a way of scoring well without using my S, and I am at least taking out a 7-letter bingo lane. My opponent may have a bingo ending S, and this may thwart him. Just looking at the board to see if there's anything I've missed, and I don't think there is. So is Anx the best I can do, given that I'm burning the S? So with the same tiles, I could play Shank. 31 points. Well, I don't think that's as good as Anx. Is there anything else? A play maybe beginning AS? No, I think I will go with this. Still not a good pickup. It's a fine rack and I should be able to score well off it, but it's a long way from a bingo. However, I do have the lead at the moment, a 70-point lead. I will be in trouble if my opponent bingos now, because I'm not going to be able to come back with a bingo. And I won't be in terrible trouble because my opponent will simply be drawing level if he bingos, or a slight lead. Now I have got Wex on my rack, which can be spelt with an E at the end as well. So I could play that in column 11, making Ax and NE, and also, which would take out the double-double possibility. My opponent is likely to play around Anx, unless he's got a bingo, which plays elsewhere. Roquet is the most likely, pluralizing Tay. Now I no longer have an S, so I can't pluralize Tay or How. Nothing goes in front of LO. So I'm reliant on my opponent playing around Anx in a way that still enables me to play. Marinara. I think that's good. I will challenge it just in case. Yep. Okay. So my opponent now is 6 points in front. What can I do? Well, I've got Wexy in row E for quite a decent score. Keeping Lig, not great. What else is there? I think I do want to burn the W and the X. What about column 8? 15 minutes on my clock. So Wexy 45, I don't think I'm going to do better than that. I am inviting a pretty high-scoring response in row C. I don't think I can do anything about that. Board is slightly tight, which is worrying, because if my opponent nudges ahead, I may have a bingo but not be able to play it. However, 45 points is good. Okay, so I do have a bingo. I have jiggled. There is nowhere for it. I think it's unlikely that my opponent will provide the opportunity for me to play it. But anyway, I do have a 39-point lead. So if my opponent does play in row C, he'll be leaving column 8 alone. Can I use that through the second day of Marinara? Not sure I can. This is a really tight board. It's very dry. Nothing to play around this ladder, and not possible to extend the ladder. And Tay is stopping the bottom right of the board from being developed, as is Cats. So all of the action, the non-bingo action, is likely to be in the top left. Okay, 31 points, that's not a disaster. John, not good, so I don't have jiggled. My opponent has blocked column A. Fax takes nothing before and after it. So I'm only 8 points in front. The board is really tight. However, my opponent has opened a bingo lane for bingos which don't begin with S. So if I could sort my rack out, I may be able to take advantage of that. But how to do that? DI takes nothing in front of it. So I could play ligged across here. No, I can't. Lon, not good. Gosh, what a tricky situation I'm in. Can't see anything which scores well through the K. Aya takes a D after it. So what to do? Jowl is good. Just can't see anything good here. Fido takes nothing after it that I've got. 12 minutes on the clock, 44 tiles left. I'm reluctant to change because the board is tight. So I could play leg. The L is not a particularly useful front letter. 19 points. What can I do? 12 minutes on the clock. Do I have anything beginning ant or anti? What I don't like is the double G combination. And this rack looks quite nice for sorting that out with jiggled and jigged, but none of them plays. Now what about playing through this N? I could play Leng. That doesn't feel great. Well, what about just playing Jong, which sorts out the duplicate G? It gets rid of the J. It kills a useful bingo lane. And the rack leave is just about okay. The score is dismal. Now I have Legia and Gelida. And possibly something else. No floaters on this board, or not many. The K isn't particularly useful with this rack. And Legia is the third anagram. Well, I have now got into the situation I didn't want to be in, of having bingo-y racks and not being able to play them. Fortunately, it's not a disaster because my opponent isn't ahead. He's trailing by 20. But it's a vulnerable position to be in. If my opponent bingoed or put down a few high-scoring plays and then kept the board tight, I could be struggling. Just scanning the board for any bingo lanes I've missed. Can't see any. I guess row E is available for 9-letter bingos beginning G something something N. Can't see anything with my rack. If my opponent just makes a 2-letter play at A8, that's unlikely to help me because I can't think of any floaters which would go well with this rack. I've no longer got any scoring tiles. However, I do have an E for going after the W, so at worst I could play Ged. Right, so do any of my bingos play? I don't think they do. Legia, Gelida nearly, but not quite. So do I have anything which goes in front of Y? No, I don't, so I can forget about row A. So this is what I was thinking of, playing Ged here. And the advantage of that is that, well, the rack leaves okay, the score's just about okay. I'm opening up another scoring spot in column 1, which is good since really there's only one scoring spot on this board, which is row A. So hopefully one or both of these spots will come to me. I'm just wondering if I've got a word beginning jury. Don't think I do. Okay, I think I will go with this. Philacer. Nowhere for that on this board. However, if my opponent doesn't play in row A, I do now have a tile which goes in front of the Y in the F. So I have Facile, which will score very well. And I have Glacier in column 1, so that's worked out quite nicely. I certainly am going to be able to play through this and get a decent score. Glacier nothing like as good as Facile. But both of them over 30 points, which is good. I can't see anything through the K. Can't see anything beginning jury. 9 minutes on my clock, 36 tiles left. Anx has proved quite an unhelpful spot. I think it's the 3 consonants means it's very hard to score anything down here. It's only really useful if you're played with vowels and you can play off a couple. But I certainly haven't been in that position yet. And even if my opponent has, he may have been reluctant to play there because it opens up a bingo lane in column 12. Okay, so my facile spot has been taken. Fortunately, my opponent only scores 29 points. Now, through a D, I would have fricadelle or file card. Neither works. Can't see anything beginning with E. And nothing with the T. So I've got Glacier, which wrecks the rack cleave. So is there something better? It would be nice to play off the F and the C. Cowl is good. Well, I can't see anything better. So Glacier for 33. Still a blank out there, so it's quite good to be turning over 6 tiles. And plenty of vowels, so although the F is a pretty non-bingo-y tile, if I draw vowels, I should be able to get a score. Well, again, very non-bingo-y rack. Well, I say again, I'm just harking back to the beginning of the game because I certainly have had bingo-y racks the last 2 turns. My lead only 20 points, remaining tiles quite bingo-y, especially with E's, R's, S's, T's and blanks out there. Board's opening up a bit. I'm only 20 points ahead, so bingo now would be very helpful for my opponent. So I'm just wondering about closing out this part of the board next go. My F can go underneath the E. So I could just play F-E. I think the D is the most dangerous tile. If my opponent bingoed down from that, he could be scoring 80 or 90 points and be in a very strong position. However, a play of F-E, or possibly EF better, doesn't leave a great rack leave in Ponge. And I'm not turning over tiles, so I'm not maximising my chances of drawing that blank. I'm just wondering if I've got anything down from the E which sticks an F or a P on this triple letter square. Can't see anything. I think Gone F is good. That's just considering this rack as a whole, what might be best for it. I don't think there's anywhere for it to play on the board as it stands. Great, only 10 points for my opponent. Now, Tub takes an E. So, can I score well across here? Eight minutes on my clock, 22 tiles left. So I could play Geep. 26 points. It's keeping the F, which is slightly annoying. And overall the rack leave isn't great. It's sort of okay for keeping on scoring, but I really would like to have a bingo, because otherwise I'm just vulnerable to my opponent bingoing. However, 26 points is okay. P, not particularly dangerous. Probably allows my opponent to score 20 or 30 points next go. Can't see anything with EO in the middle, so I think it has got to be a double E word. I could play Fiend. No, I think I will go with this. Great, my opponent doesn't have the Z. However, remaining tiles looking increasingly bingo-y. Can't see anywhere great for the Z. But I'm sure I'll be able to play it somewhere. So I've got Gonzo in column 12. I can't see anything down from the P using the Z. Onto an E, I would have Foozle. It would be nice to get rid of the F and the Z. But I think the priority is probably playing the Z. Well, not necessarily playing the Z. The Z's a good scoring tile, but probably playing off a couple of the O's. So I don't think it's essential to burn the Z quickly. It is a good scoring tile. Quite a lot of vowels to come, although the I's aren't particularly helpful. 33 points, could have been worse. My opponent has blocked a bingo lanes in column 14, which is quite helpful since he's not ahead. Gonzo would open up a bingo lane. Not a great thing to do. 6 minutes on my clock. So, what to do? I could just play double O down here. That's not good. Doesn't even score 20 points. Just wondering if I've got to play through here, beginning OUF. Can't see anything. 6 minutes on my clock. I think I need to play the F or the Z. And I'm struggling to see anywhere. I could play hoof. Only 14 points. Can I... Well, what can I play? Such a tight board. Azon, 14 points. Cos. What about Cos, 24? And the advantages of this is it's not providing a lot for my opponent. I'm setting up an off-if spot for next go. I am retaining a consonant heavy rack leave. I'm retaining the F for score. I'm not opening up new bingo lanes, so my opponent may struggle to score. He pretty much needs a bingo beginning with S to play after Tay or How. So I think this has merit. And I draw one of the S's, which is good. So now a play of OF somewhere would leave quite a bingo-y rack leave. Okay, nice bingo by my opponent. Do I have one? Actually, I'm wondering if I should challenge this. I am 48 points behind. Is a challenge going to make a difference? I think this is good. I don't think I need to challenge. Do I need a bingo to win? 5 tiles left. Don't think so. I'm wondering about playing OF for score. I can't play OF here. I'd like to retain the possibility of bingoing. 5 tiles left. So if I play down from the R, that would leave 1 in the bag. So I could play Felon. This might work. So I've got the S for pluralizing it. If my opponent plays in row O, he might be opening a bingo lane in row N. I'm keeping open the How bingo lane. The O is available as a floater, possibly the R. 32 points is a good score. That takes me to 228, 16 behind. Only 1 scoring tile in the bag. My opponent may be plagued with vowels, so he may just play a 2 or 3 letter vowel play in the bottom right for almost nothing, so I could catch my opponent without bingoing. Downside of Felon is that I'm keeping a vowel heavy rack leave, however only 1 I and O to come. Tricky. Felon for 32. An alternative would be to play of 28. And that would be retaining the L and the N. 2 minutes on my clock. So my point is, if I play OF, then my rack leave is far more robust for dealing with vowel pickups. I think iOS was just too vulnerable to vowels, given that there are 7 vowels out of 12 tiles. 28 is fairly similar to 32. What I'm not doing is providing bingo lanes. Now, what about playing oof for 31 points? Just so that the rack leave is even better, having 2 consonants more than the vowels. So if I picked up an E and there are 3 in there, lines is a pretty good 5-letter set. The downside of this is that, or one of the downsides is that if I do have a bingo, it's really only playable if it begins with S. However, 31 points is a good score. I could catch my opponent without bingoing, and I'm not providing him with any super hot spots, I don't think. Let's find out. So I have utensil and untiles, neither of which plays, I don't think, and Luniest and possibly Luteans, but nothing begins with the S. I may have something through OO or OR. I'm expecting that spot to be blocked. I am behind by 17 points. I have no scoring tiles. So what did I pick up? I picked up a U and an E and a consonant. I still think oof is better than felon. Although obviously with this rack, felon would have allowed Luniest. OR I think is the most likely. Can't see a bingo through that. So where can I score? I've got the S. Jong takes an S. So I could play sulk. 21 points. My opponent may empty the bag, so I could be in the situation of planning an out in 2. Now, are there any lanes I haven't considered? FE no good because nothing goes in front of C. I guess the K is available. But it would have to begin something S. I thought for a moment my opponent had opened the board. He hasn't. He's only scored 19 points. He has emptied the bag. He's got étoile. He's not going to go out in 1. He is 30... I've only got 1 minute on my clock. He is 36 points in front. That's probably going to be enough for him. So, is sulk the best? I may not have time to find the best move here, but sulk scores 21. It keeps tying. I'd quite like to be able to play down here onto to make co's. So maybe I shouldn't be doing sulk first. So what about playing ULE down here for 19? Well, I think I'm running out of time here. What about something in row L? Well, I'm going to play this. I no longer have my sulk spot. But I can play skint, but that's not going to win. Gosh, how annoying. I don't have anything in row L. I don't have anything down from the R. I've got Vince. Anywhere else for my S? Meds is good. Can't see anything through that. Chins and Ohias, I think, is good. Ah, I've got Feints, F-E-I-N-T-S. 18 points. Well, I think my opponent just needs to score almost anything here to win. So if Feints is blocked, I've got 11 seconds on my clock, it is blocked. Skint for 9. Just wait for my opponent to formally end the game. Which he does, and the final score, 361 to me, 384 for my opponent, a winning margin of 23 points, so well done to my opponent. Let's see what I missed. It was me to go fast. I played cat, I think that's best. Horrible rack for my opponent. This was my rack. And I played Minty, and Mini also available. Horrible rack still for my opponent, he did have vowels. And then this was my rack, and I played Woods, that looks fine. Super rack for my opponent. He doesn't have a bingo though. Plays low. This was my rack, and I played Anks, and I think that looks fine. Now, lovely play by my opponent with Marinara. Other bingos available. And I have Wex for 45. Opponent plays Fido, and this is a really tricky rack. And in the end, I played Jong. I didn't particularly like it. J1. Ah, Jig and Gowl. I think I would have played that if I'd seen it. I don't think the J's... Well, J is quite dangerous in that spot, but... I don't think it's 9 points worth of danger. Actually, there's probably not terribly much between those two. My opponent has ternary, nowhere for it. Plays jury. Ah, there was a play down from Antlered. Very nice, 30 points. I didn't see that. I played Ged with quite a nice rack leave, and probably not much between those. My opponent plays netted. Now I have Philacer, nowhere for it. I played Glacier, that looks fine. Horrible rack for my opponent, and he's 20 points behind, so he does well to come back from this. Plays Tub. Now I have Geep for 26. UFO. Yeah, UFO is quite nice because it keeps the board pretty tight. However, it does leave open this row D spot for sticking an A or E after Tub, and a high scoring letter here, so I think Geep may be better. My opponent's rack improving, plays Pubic, and now I have a tricky rack. I played Cos in the end, and nothing obviously better. Now my opponent has Savourer, and its anagram Serovar, and I couldn't see a way of coming back. Well, I didn't miss a bingo. I played Oof. After a while, I was also thinking about Felon. Just very difficult to know. There's just a preponderance of vowels left, and Felon just so often is going to leave you with 5 vowels. 4 or 5 vowels. However, it does provide a spot for an S word and leave open the floating O. And L and N together, not great. So all in all, it's just a tricky spot. And Ov as well had merit, and I was running short on time. But anyway, I played Oof. And now my opponent played Sav. And at this point, I'm 35 points behind. And yeah, I think I was only 1 minute on my clock. I didn't play this end game well at all. So I could have got 23 for Silken. keeping TU, which does play out, but not for very much. So I think this game was lost at this point. My opponent plays T for 21. He's now 38 points ahead. And the best I can do... Wow, skint was actually the best I could do. I'm surprised. And that was the end of the game. So a slightly frustrating game. I felt that I was a long way from... Well, I didn't actually bingo. I didn't bingo. The blue words are mine. And I pretty much played 3 and 4 letter words throughout with the occasional 5. So pretty grim game in some ways, but there are games like that, and certainly on reviewing the game afterwards I didn't miss anything massive, and even the fell on oof point is really a matter for debate as opposed to an error. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching that, and I will see you next time.